Well, hi, this is Jason T. Ingram. I'm coming to you from my little home in the Portland, Oregon area. It's called Milwaukee, but with an IE at the end. It's the apparently our claim to fame is Bing cherries. Now, I found that out when I Googled Bing cherries. I don't know why. I just happened to be thinking about them and came up with my little suburb here. And so, anyways, this is my ghost room where I turn into a ghost. Okay, so this is a series I'm doing about finding help, and I'm also documenting my mood changes. And my main diagnosis that puts me on disability for the last decade or so is bipolar. And some say I'm bipolar 1, some say I'm bipolar 2. I would say I swing back and forth, so I'm kind of like bipolar polar. It's like tripolar or something like that. So I have been in this depression now for, months. This thing lasted a long time. And I don't think it's over, but it very well could be. But I do know that I'm either starting a manic phase, or I'm doing my rapid cycling. And that could very well be, because that's what was going on a lot earlier in the winter. When I was starting my business and I was doing a lot of really cool stuff, and then when it started falling apart is when I started falling apart, because I realized that the work I was doing, and I've been focusing more on marketing my work and getting it out there instead of just producing it, and then I found that that was just impossible to do by myself. And then I found that my art was kind of back more into being therapeutic. And that was cool, because I was trying to market stuff that I was doing really just more for commercial purposes. And we know that's very soul-sucking. And especially if you're not even successful at it, then that's kind of sad. It's like, why am I doing stuff that I feel like will offend the least amount of people? And I think that that's good to do art for others. Stuff that they'll like, that they'll enjoy, that'll make them happy. And at the same time, every artist has got to do their stuff that makes them happy and the stuff that's in their heart. So one of the things I'm doing is a song by a group called Art Bears. And they had a 3-year recording history and was the offshoot of my favorite musical group of all time, Henry Cow, which is kind of avant prog jazz mixed with, it's just amazing. They're just a pure form of experimental music, and they were very successful, and they still have a following. And I thought, well, that's what's in my heart. That's the music that made me go, wow, when I was 15. And that was the stuff that really changed my life. That was the stuff that separated me from all the kids in my school. And we'd listen to a lot of fucking weird music when I was in school. And so I have really been realizing that although the slogan for my hometown of Portland, Oregon is "Keep Portland Weird," and in the last couple of years, it's gotten more traffic than weirdness. And the weirdness seems to be leaving this town and is making me wonder why I'm still here. But I love this town. This town, I felt like, has chewed me up and spit me out for the second time in my life. And I'm surviving. I'm still here. And I'm still doing my art. And I'm finding other avenues to do it. And I'm also, like, so hyper now that I'm pacing around the house. But that's one of the problems with bipolar sometimes, is that because I just have not been managing it very well, and I've let things really get bad, and I've been scaring everybody around me, and I'm feeling really bad about it, because I still feel like there was more that I could have done. But the fact that I've documented so much of this stuff of trying to get help, and it becoming more frustrating to the point when I just kept wanting to give up. And so that's it's kind of a good thing that maybe this would encourage others to just keep going and know what the climate is in some parts of the country in this time, and that there's a big shift in healthcare, and a lot of people are in crisis because the people on the bottom are really suffering right now, and the people on the top are really happy. And America had this amazing shift in the last 6 months, and it's taking us actually a pretty short time to really start to suffer and really starting to feel what's going on. And a lot of it's fear, and unfortunately as afraid as I am of, trusting a lot of people that I used to trust, and how sad that is, and how frustrating that is to really try and make sure I have the right motives and that I'm not walking around with too much resentment. And it's very difficult because of what's been going on in my life recently. And I think with the amount of hurt that's going on and the opportunities to express that hurt in ways that could harm myself or other people, I've really been lucky and I've really been blessed, and I am amazed that I've survived, because I didn't know if this crisis was going to take my life. I felt like I was out of control, and I hate that feeling. And the very little help that was out there for me was amazing, and I don't know where I would be without my close friends and some people who have suffered with me, and not nearly as much as I probably want or asked for or demanded. But I tell you, I am just so grateful right now. And I'm also grateful for my kitty, which I don't know if she's in the front part or the back part. Sorry that my camera's so overexposed. I've got it on a special setting here to where I can do my low light stuff. And there goes the cat. She's cranky, and it's just got night, and she starts to want her treat at this time of night. But the problem is that when I give her treat in the early evening and then I stay up for another 5 hours, she begs for another 5 hours. And so I don't think that's worth it. And she also really hates when I talk to other people. And so, yeah. Anyways, love my kitty. It's been my companion on a daily basis, which is good. And today I had a buddy over and we did some shopping, and I got myself a Sonicare toothbrush that I've always wanted, and I also was able to use up 2 gift cards. So I did think that was kind of funny that this is my birthday present from September and my Christmas present from December. So, and it was nice to have some friends over and kind of talk about like my situation that happened at the hospital earlier this month and how I'm recovering from that. And I'm still not exactly sure where my care is going to go, but I'm hopeful because I've got a couple of doors opened up. Phew! That was Saturday night. That's kind of what happens when I go from a major depressive thing into a major manic thing. It gets to be very difficult. And the way I see these mood changes, and the more extreme they are, is often based on stressors and external situations. And in this case, if you mix in my lack of care and the lack of self-care that I was doing as well, and just generally losing my mind and losing control over just about everything. And so now I'm hopeful, because typically when I go through these particular kinds of mood changes, especially with the circumstances that have changed in my life recently and the changing weather. I mean, it's just fucking beautiful out. It's just been around 70 and 80 here in the last week or so. And I've been making it out to the river once a week, and I've been taking a sleepy day once a week, and starting to take care of stuff in the backyard, although this is kind of a result of what happens when we get lots of rain and lots of non-mowing the lawn here. So anyways, got into my shed and was able to get a lot of my drum equipment out, because I was working on a simpler drum set using a mix of electronics And then I kind of lost my love of drumming, because there's nothing like an electronic drum set to make a drummer really hate what he does. Although I love doing it for my live shows because it was really cool. But drums for me is not just one of the instruments I like to play a lot. It's part of my therapy. And one of the things I have a tendency to do is, when I'm going through something emotionally intense, is that I can hide it when I'm around people, but the moment I get alone, sometimes I'll take it out on objects, because I don't want to take it out on my cat, I don't want to take it out on my neighbors, and I don't want to do anything physically harmful to myself. And so it's not a good coping skill, but I think if I have a lot of bottled up rage and I get alone and I find something to hurt, it's the lesser of many evils, which is the reason why I only have one of these kinds of chairs, because the other one I smashed earlier this month, and I'm not proud of that. I'm actually kind of proud of it, because that's a big hefty chair. Those are not flimsy chairs, but I was just out of control a couple weeks ago, and that happened to be the object that was there. And it scares people when folks talk about this stuff, but you got to remember that I have no record of expressing my rage physically to anybody. And I don't even have any arrests or anything like that. I've got a clean record. And a lot of people are like this. A lot of people are ashamed to talk about their rage, to talk about their anger, because instead of the response being, wow, Jason, you must really be hurting in order to do that, the response is, how do I get away from Jason, because he's going to probably do this to me. And that is the response that I typically get. And it's always wonderful to have a compassionate response when somebody responds with that much pain. This was the thing that I broke around late winter, early spring. But it's not as amazing as it looks, because that was an old water bottle. So it shattered pretty easily. And here is my current setup, which is awesome. And I don't know if this one will break though, but I do have this awesome water bottle here that I'm using as part of my set. And I kept some of the electric drums here. And then I've got this crazy noise thing, because I'm wanting to make a drum set that reminds me of my favorite drummer, whose name is Cutler. And he's one of the most innovative drummers that I listen to. And he uses a lot of very noisy things in his set. And so now I'm just dealing with, okay, I hope I don't have a bout of mania like I did last year. And mind you, last summer I was medicated the whole time. And so my current medication I've been taking for sleep is not really a medication, it's a supplement, and it's called L-theanine. And I might have to start taking this during the day, because there's a trend these days. There it is. Thank you, autofocus. There's a trend in mental health where people are doing a lot of this holistic stuff, and they're taking amino acids and various things in order to control their moods. I tried one a couple of years ago called NAC, but that was a study that was done and it kind of went nowhere. So me pacing around my house is an example of sometimes what I do when I have a huge to-do list and I don't know where to start, and I don't have a lot of good priorities. So today I decided I'm going to try one thing that I felt that was important, and I called American Express and realized that they've been charging me late fees every month. And for a purchase that I made in February, and luckily they were able to waive some of that stuff for me. But we'll see, because that's been one of my biggest nemesises, is dealing with corporations. And there's nothing that makes me want to panic like thinking about calling these folks, and then calling them, and then getting the runaround, and then getting this, but something happened though. I think this poor guy in India, when I told him that I had gotten sick and I was having trouble and stuff, and he said, well, sorry, I hope you're feeling better. And I thought, boy, they must have watched the best Marigold Hotel movie that has to do with call centers in India, not demonstrating the kind of compassion that Americans like. So maybe they're training them to actually listen to people when they say they're sick. Anyways, so yeah, dealing with panic attacks majorly, and just kind of accepting the fact that they're probably going to be there. And how do I cope with them, and how do I allow it not to get me to be unproductive? And now the cat is going through, oh no, what's happening to my house again? The drums are back, oh no. Alrighty. Well, hey, for this series, I want to try to upload more practical stuff, because most of this has just been more the expose on living with a crisis and trying to cope with it and trying to find help. And I have, but it's very little, and I'll get to that. And I also want to get to what happens when you don't get any help at all, and the help that's there triggers you and causes more trauma than getting no help, and how to help yourself, and how to rely on other peers, and how to basically get everything you need just in case the system fails you. So, signing off, and thanks for following all this stuff.